see they moved my phone.
All right, I'd just like to inform everybody that in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over Lunenburg Public Access. We'll take roll call. All our members are here. Public comment. Is there any public comment from the board? I do have one public comment. They're doing a survey regarding the pay-as-you-throw trash bags. I believe it's on the town website, just to get some indication of whether the bags are thick enough or large enough. It only takes a second. And they also just recently did one with the color of painting town hall, so. Is there any public comment from the public? All right, we'll get started with our first appointment. It's an A&R plan for 380, 390, and 400 Electric Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Greg Roy, Ducharme and Dillis. A few months back, we were before you for a site plan special permit for the proposed car wash facility, which is under construction. So we've broken ground there. As part of that approval process, particularly with the Sewer Commission, they asked us to consolidate the lots. There were 3 lots there, known as 380, 390, and 400. 380 was a small lot. It's generally where the proposed car wash is being put. 390 is the existing office building down there. It's a red metal building, 2-story building. And then 400 is the existing retail shop, Proctor Landscape and Equipment Supply. Anyway, the Sewer Commission asked us to consolidate those lots to resolve issues related to the proposed sewer connection for the new car wash, issues related to their regulations that don't allow easement connections for that. So we agreed to do that, and several weeks ago we finalized the A&R plan, and we have it before you. So there's no new lots being created. The lot the ultimate consolidated lot will comply with your zoning regulations for commercial districts. It'll be 4.22 acres. The frontage is, I think, in excess, I don't have it in front of me here, but the frontage is in excess of 600 feet. No new non-compliances with buildings and things like that. So happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Basically, you're just eliminating the lot line.
Yeah, there's two lot lines that we'll be eliminating. So it'll just, this was a little bit of a step that I think legally might not have been required because they were all held in common ownership. So lots held in common ownership, if they're non-compliant, all of a sudden become merged by the letter of the law. But it made the Sewer Commission more comfortable to see us put this formally on record to resolve it and make sure it was on paper, and then subsequently recorded in the Registry of Deeds. So that's what we've done.
You all open up to questions from the board.
I have a question. Are you going to be able to retain the 3 separate street addresses?
We believe so, yeah. I think they'll run with the buildings. Have you had any?
I have not heard otherwise.
We believe so. We don't have any.
Okay, I would hope so.
Anyone else? I think it's pretty straightforward what they're doing, and we had discussed it previously at the site plan approval meetings. So if someone would like to make a motion.
Move
we
that we
don't
accept
need
the,
to. Sorry, we don't need to make a
we don't need
motion.
to?
No, you just get.
I guess.
Just sign it.
Alrighty, so I guess.
Greg, here's your recording form.
Transfer of other businesses in town or residences even that there's multiple addresses on one property.
All right. Don't require anything further from the applicant, so while we're signing this, we'll go into our next appointment, which is an A&R for 53 Prospect Street.
Good evening, gentlemen of the board. My name is Frank Preston of Whitman and Bingham Associates, and we have been engaged by Amy Raschuti and Charles Whitcomb, brother and sister, who own a 17-acre parcel at the corner of Crossroad and Prospect Street. Tonight, we create a single approval not required building lot of nearly 3 acres. The eventual plan is to develop the entire parcel. As we so often do, however, the creation of this first lot will provide seed money to finance the development of the rest of the land. The lot in the Residence B district has adequate frontage and area as required for that district, and if the board has any questions, I'm prepared to respond to them. Thank you.
Is the existing property is not on sewer currently?
Oh, I'm sorry, I failed to mention, it is within the sewer district. The existing house is connected to the sewer.
It is, okay.
Yes. We were able to document that as part of our submission to the board.
Okay, thank you.
The proposed house clearly, obviously, will be connected to the sewer as well.
Is there any questions from the board?
So Lot 5, you expect to be a buildable lot?
Yes. We obviously, because of the wetlands, Conservation Commission approval will be required. Once a buyer has settled upon how he wants to develop the lot, at that time, he will be required to appear before the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
There is sufficient upland there for an adequate house site.
So just refresh my memory. You need 95% of the minimum lot size in upland for a larger lot?
If I may interject, sir, it's a 90%.
90%?
So in this particular case, since the minimum is, lot size is 80,
72.
the minimum up upland is 72, we
Yeah.
provide 76 and change.
Okay.
Yeah, they says it in the reverse in the notes that 10%. Is that it?
The existing structures are staying?
That's correct. No, they can, because they're sufficiently positioned to where they could be left there, but then the owner tends to remove them.
Okay.
They're dilapidated. A proposed buyer is not going to want to keep them.
I think there's a separate offset for accessory buildings versus the dwelling.
That's right.
So, yeah, that's well within.
The location of it made it easy for us because we didn't have to require that they be raised. They will be, but it's not a requirement in our belief.
I don't have any other questions.
I don't either. Looks like you could have carved off 2 or 3 more lots.
Well, we will, and like I said earlier, as we so often do, the first lot provides money to survey the rest of it. Gentlemen, thank you for your time and attention,
Hey,
and good
thank
health
you.
to all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
as
you.
well.
All right. Next up is a public hearing for 675 Reservoir Road.
Pick up the plan.
As soon as it's signed at the end of the table, he'll give it to you tonight.
Good evening.
The Lunenburg Planning Board will hold a public hearing on August 14, 2017, 6:35 PM, Town Hall, 17 Main Street, Lunenburg, Mass, to hear and review an application for special permit to relocate a driveway at 675 Reservoir Road, Lot 1A, and 667 Reservoir Road, Lot 2A, map 134, parcels 3 and 49, under protective bylaw of the Town of Lunenburg, Section 4.8, floodplain district. Owner is Reservoir Road LLC, Paul Gogwin, manager, 305 Lancaster Street, Leominster, Mass. 01453. Applicant is Paul Gogwin, 180 Willard Road, Ashburnham, Mass. 01430. The application and plans are available for viewing in the planning office.
Alrighty, I believe everybody received the communications from Adam regarding just the narrative. If you'd like to present, if you'd just like to identify yourself.
Yeah, my name is Paul Gogin. I own Reservoir Road, and at 675, I don't know about 667, but 675 is the driveway in question. It comes at it at an angle, so when you come out the driveway, you gotta try to look up the street. So we had just come straight on to the Reservoir Road. Had it approved by Conservation, because we're gonna put a new culvert in. That's that.
Now, the original driveway proposal was up the very edge of the property, is that correct?
The existing driveway kind of goes this way, and I just want to straighten it out. I think it's like 20, 25 feet to the right of it. Standing at the road, looking into the lot.
Does the existing driveway show on this plan?
It does.
It does? Have you found it?
On the small one?
Yeah, small one.
It's on the small
I
one,
can
huh?
see. Because I have to replicate, when I take out the old driveway, there's culverts there, take those out, replicate the wetlands.
So that looks like there, but I don't see where it goes from there.
I see the proposed driveway, I don't see that.
Yeah, I had a lot of trouble reading this map as well.
Plus, it'll help clean out that drainage ditch on the side of the road, because it does water kind of
This is
puddles
the-
up against it.
He showed it to me.
Proposed right here.
So,
The existing comes out.
Oh, this is, this right here?
Yeah. It's kind of hard to see it.
Edge of gravel access road. Oh, is that it? Oh, right here.
So the entrance is moving down the street a ways?
Yeah, it's moving over here.
How far down the street is it moving?
So, right here, edge of gravel
So
access
basically
road.
come out
I
like-
think that might be.
Oh, yeah.
no, that's a gravel road that goes to the beach.
Proposed
This is the
driveway.
driveway start.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's.
Yeah, there's two of them.
It's the actual road, but the
Yeah.
You're talking about the property on the left, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
The house that's built?
Okay.
Is that what- the driveway you're looking to move, or are you looking to move the house up, the driveway on the right?
No, 675, which is the,
How did it look to you?
I'm trying to find which is which on this map.
This is the one where the house is built, or the other lot?
the one's built, that,
Nope. So you're moving the driveway for the house that's not built yet?
right, this one here,
Okay.
where are we? So here's the existing driveway,
Okay.
and we want the driveway to come here now.
Okay.
And then the replication
Yeah, you're
of
right.
that,
That's
that area is all right here. We're gonna take out the culverts, we're gonna clean up that whole drainage on the side of the road, because water does puddle up on that side of the road, because it's all tilted against Reservoir Road.
All right, so this...
Okay, so
this
that's
is
gonna
the
go and you're gonna
original-
replicate the wetlands there? That's what you-
Yeah,
Okay.
it's already been approved through conservation and everything.
So this is the original opening to the parking lot that was there?
This is the original driveway.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is gonna
Parking
go.
lot here, right? So this
And
is the
that's gonna be
opening for the
wetland.
parking lot? So this is where the snowmobiles cross to go into the ballpark, across the street is right in here.
Oh, I see it now.
The ballpark.
Yeah, the ballpark is here.
All right. So the culvert's gonna go to the same place, though?
Yeah.
And this old gravel road, right?
Makes sense when I was there.
That, does that come down here now,
Better down
today?
has been from right here.
Or does that,
Yeah, they have a
That's
rough,
gonna be all
Like if you're standing down here, you can see better?
Yeah, because if you're at this point looking this way, because this road's actually a little different, you can see kind of around this corner.
Oh, so you get a better sight line on that corner? Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense.
You're gonna try to look up the road, and there's a huge corner right here.
So it gives you more view around the corner?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
okay.
if I come at it straight,
Okay.
that was the whole reason why we did it.
I have a couple comments. The first,
mind going back to the microphone, sir, so the...
the first being that
Thanks.
I think I drove down there to take a look at this area. You know, I find this map to be very thorough, but also very busy.
Is that yours?
And I think it would have been a little beneficial, because it seems to me pretty straightforward. But I think looking at this, it's everything's black and white. And of course, you have the contour lines, you have all the wetland protection areas. It's a lot of stuff going on. I think it would have been probably just a little easier if on 5 copies you would have just highlighted in probably a different color the lines that were related to the
I'm
driveways.
sorry, I've been looking at those plans for so much that I know every little piece now, you know? I just, I apologize.
Yeah, but
I know
walk-
there's a lot going on with those.
I did go down there and take a look, and I think it makes perfect sense for what you're trying to do. From the point that you're proposing, basically you can see around the corner. That's to your right there. Whereas where the driveway is currently at, you're missing it by like 10 feet.
Yeah, you stick your nose out a little bit to try to, you know, to look down the road, and then if there's people packed over here, that's at the baseball game, it's just, it was kind of tough just getting out. And I just figured it'd be a lot easier.
Yeah.
And plus, we can clean up that culvert, because there is some water that, they just repaved the Reservoir Road, so, but it does, the water does puddle up, because
Yeah.
the culvert there is just full of debris. And when we go and do the new driveway, we get to go in, and, you know, Conservation let us go in there and clean it up.
Where on the map are, and again, where on the map are the proposed, I know this is already done through conservation, where are you rebuilding the?
Rebuilding.
I thought I saw that you're kind of redesigning a wetland somewhere.
The restoration area,
The
Yeah.
restoration
the
area.
replication.
Up here, this little, this is the replication,
Okay,
new driveway.
Yep.
And then,
So
we
the-
built the culverts and replicated.
got it. So you're, basically what I'm looking at when I see there's a bunch of trees, you're just flopping it.
Flop, yeah,
Got
just move it. It's probably, I'd say, 20 to 25 feet.
And that was where you currently had like, forgive me for the name, I think it was like a small little mini bulldozer or something you had parked there, is that right? Where the proposed was supposed to be?
Yes,
Okay.
probably, yeah, a little skid steer.
Yeah, like a little mini skid steer, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any more comments from the board? Or
No.
we can take. Is there any public comment regarding this matter? Go ahead, excuse me. Go right ahead. You could just identify yourself, your name and address, please.
I'm Adele Bellotta, 18 Fire Road 7. My driveway comes out a few feet from his, and we've had a puddle there for years. And I came to the first meeting across when he first started. They said they were going to have him to not drain any of his water onto Reservoir Road. Well, I'll tell you, they missed, because it's like this towards the road. And I'm concerned about the puddle and the damages it does. I like getting out of my driveway, and I don't want to have to float out.
So if I may ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
Your driveway is a little further down, and when I went there to look, how it appeared to me was that when you cross over the driveways, that there's drainage, that it's along the road, it's very wet.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that most of the driveways that cross the road have basically drain pipes underneath them?
Well, there used to be a little swale there that the water used to go down, but through the years it got filled and it didn't do it anymore. So now with him coming down with hot top right to Reservoir Road, that water's got nowhere to go but in the road. And in the wintertime, it creates ice and slush and makes it a little bit tough.
What do you think the developer can do to remedy your concern?
Well, you might be able to do some kind of a drainage system from, there's a couple of big pine trees right at the edge of the road. Maybe dig a drain across the back of that and let it relieve the water that way. And stop his from coming. I don't know how he's gonna stop his. He's already done all his.
Are you talking because of the buildup, how they've kind of built it up a
Well,
little?
it used to be flat.
Yeah.
They built it up, I don't know how many feet, but
Okay.
Have you been before the planning board before with this project?
No.
No? Okay.
we had a meeting a couple of years ago across the street in the cellar of the Ritter Building.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you first went for your permit. And that was my concern then. And there was a gentleman sitting there that said, oh, no, we'll make sure no water comes out that way.
From gravel, to low, it's more like one-to-one.
If you wouldn't mind stepping up to the microphone, sorry, so the people at home can hear you and your reply. Mr. Gogan, if you want to speak to any of these
Yeah, I know
issues.
there was a puddle there before, but that's why once the conservation lets us go in there, right now, they consider that wetlands, that ditch. Can't go in there and do anything, can't take trees out, can't do nothing. And when we do the replication, we could do what he says and make a little trench there to carry the water. The driveway now, he's talking about 667 Reservoir Road, not the one I'm here for. It's a total different property. I mean, it's the house next door.
The two properties are next to each other, but the number differentiation is 667, 675,
Right.
correct?
I'm here for 675.
Okay.
But he's talking about 667.
And the plans for 675, for what you're actually building, have not been submitted,
The building plans?
correct?
I already have the building permit. I already
Okay.
paid for it. But what he's mentioning is 667, there's a puddle. The road really slopes down. I don't know why they didn't build the road up. but
Did
Is
you
that the
build-
one on the left? Is that what we're looking at? 667?
This
Okay.
is the one that he's saying has the water issue.
Okay.
This is the house.
This is the house that
that's
we're
here.
discussing tonight.
Correct, on the
Okay.
right.
675 is what we're discussing. It shows a
Yep,
representation.
yeah. Okay. So 667 is the one with the issue, with the puddle issue. Puddling issue.
I don't know how he's got his address.
It's kind of together, because when you're actually there, these two driveways.
Yeah, they're right
come
next
in
to each
together.
other.
They come in together, they have a shared opening. And that's
Okay.
really hard to depict.
So this is the previous site of Camp David, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, both addresses are part of Camp David or just the one? Just 675
They
was?
both are. He came before us with an A&R and divided this property in half.
Okay.
That's the last time it was for the planning board, was for this division.
Right.
The A&R.
Where is the meeting?
But it's just two houses, so we didn't have any kind of site review or anything like that. We just did
Right,
A&R.
the most we would have had would be a stormwater, but I
Yeah.
don't think they came to us for that. because
Well, sir, if you don't mind me asking,
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
how can you, does the plan as approved right now by the Conservation Commission address your neighbor's concerns?
For 675, the one driveway we're talking now,
Correct.
we didn't have any neighbors' concerns.
I'm saying the neighbor that's in front of us now, the plans that you have for this, will that address his concerns?
Well, the driveway, I didn't see the puddle get any bigger. I know there's a puddle there. It's been there before I bought the place, and there's one there now. Is it bigger or is the same size? I don't know. He's saying it is. The driveway's on slope, the whole place is gravel. So there's no way water can just rush down. It's not like clay. The driveway, when it comes down, it kind of slopes and goes into that drainage ditch. So anything off my property is staying on the property.
Did we see this plan, did we see this
There's
before?
a driveway that comes down to
Saw the
Reservoir
A&R.
Road,
We saw the A&R, and that's where I saw that driveway, right? It's like a little loop.
or any dams like to get the water to go a certain way. So whatever comes off that road, his driveway, is gonna end up in that puddle.
Just so I'm clear, so you're talking about the house that is down 667, this is the house that's recently been built, correct?
One he's building now, yes, the big
Okay.
one.
Okay,
That's not the driveway I'm here for.
correct,
675.
okay. And the
And
drive,
your concern is that this change will make that issue with the other house worse?
I don't know, I don't wanna get any worse.
Okay, okay. I'm just trying to follow what's going on.
I'm just trying to get out of my driveway.
Okay, gotcha.
I own a car that's got a low-profile front, and when the puddle gets big and it gets muddy, it hits going out. The spoil is very expensive.
and do you have drainage underneath your driveway? A pipe? Do you have a pipe?
Nope.
And your driveway is this fire road that goes up the side here?
My driveway's actually a fire road.
Yeah. Fire Road 7?
Yes, Fire Road 7.
So, I'm sorry to go against what you've said, but if there's water in a puddle, that's not gonna make you any more likely to hit your ground clearance on your car, right? Or
Yes,
is,
it is, because it makes it muddy.
okay,
It sinks in.
right, there you go.
Then when you start plowing in the wintertime with erosion, it gets deeper.
Would you be willing to put some stone in his driveway?
They got stone there now, but it's gonna wash out and get plowed out.
The Reservoir Road goes like this, and when there's a heavy rain, it's got nowhere to go, it just puddles.
Well, there's a swamp across, and when it gets flooded, it floods the whole street.
So there's
Never been at Fitzgerald Field.
storm drains.
That's flooded all the
further up
time.
road. There's no storm drains in this section?
As far as I know,
No, I
there's,
just saw the ones that go right off the side of the road into, there's one that goes right into the culvert, right before the baseball field on the right, if the baseball field's on your right. I didn't see any storm drains in the road.
The only one that's there is beyond his driveway for his new house, and that's the one he wants to clean up, I think. There's a pipe there, and there's one coming across.
Right, they're all
Football field.
clogged, and once we do it, but like I said, I had to go get all these plans done and go through conservation, because you can't even go in there and clean out the rubbish without getting in trouble.
I did speak to the wetlands agent today, and he said that they did, and we did receive confirmation of their order conditions, and he said the replication was satisfactory. They recommend 2-to-1 replication, but it's not set in stone, and he said that their replication was adequate. If you don't have anything else to say, huh?
Bob,
Sure. If you wouldn't mind stepping up to the microphone and identifying yourself.
My name's Joe Bellata. I live at 200 Prospect Street. I plow that property, my parents' property. What happened in the wintertime, the slush builds up. That's why the water builds up even worse. Before they even started anything, before the driveway was there used to be a gully there, very slight gully, and used to pitch everything down to the right towards the brook down there. What happens, once you put the driveway in, the driveway's up higher now. So you even made more of a dam of the water coming this way. If you put rock in his driveway, you're just gonna push water to his neighbor. So then you're just pushing the issue further way down. To fix it, I'm not sure how you could do it now because the driveway's already established.
And just confirm, this is the driveway that's already existing.
Might be able to drop something, just throw a pipe underneath.
This is the driveway that's already existing, not the issue before us today.
Yeah, that might fix it up right there.
Excuse us one second. What's that,
So
Michael?
this is the driveway that's already existing, and it's not the issue that's before us today. Am I understanding this right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
It is,
Yeah, could I just ask what you two gentlemen were just saying? It sounded like somebody said something might fix it.
Well, no, unless you put a pipe on the other side and drain underneath it, underneath the driveway that's there, the new one.
The new 667.
Yes, yeah. That would, that might fix it there. It does flood over the road in the wintertime.
Yeah, so prior to any work being done on this property, there was a swale there, correct?
Yeah,
Off the
slight
road.
swale.
And the water in that swale used to flow down to this stream
Yes.
that feeds
You get the property, you would go to the right.
Lake Shirley,
Yes.
correct? Yeah. And now we've built that land up and we put a driveway in there which raises the elevation, so that swale is no longer existing
Right.
across, right? So would it be, I don't know if conservation would approve this, but would it be possible to put drainage back in there under the driveways to reestablish what that swale used to do with the water runoff to that stream, or would that be inappropriate? I mean, we wouldn't be able to approve that, but conservation could if they were okay with it.
When I was there, it appeared to be drainage underneath 667. Am I correct on that? Is there drainage underneath that?
Which one?
667?
667. Okay.
I can't do anything more than what conservation lets me do.
Have you approached them about possibly doing that?
We were just gonna taper the driveway, and then, because the drainage ditch is probably 8 feet away.
Forgive me, which property?
667.
Okay, so you were gonna change it a little bit to get
We're gonna change it to get the water.
change the pitch on it?
Flow that
To get it to flow that way, or the,
The puddle they're talking about is way down. I don't think I can grab all that water. I would have
Okay.
to make a huge swale to come all the way down.
Used to go around the pines and then drop right there, right from all the sanding and stuff. It's got like a buildup. It did over the years, and then when you built yours, you came right off the top of that.
Right. You can clean it up, you can take it out, but like I said, I gotta get approvals through conservation. Anything you do, because that's all wetlands.
I wonder if this is something that the DPW could deal with instead of the property owner, because it's actually a water issue on the road, right?
Yeah, they actually were having an issue up the street, the same type of thing, and they did put in somewhat of a,
So maybe what needs to be done, I mean, it's awful that we just paved the road, but maybe what needs to be done is a couple of culverts and a drainage pipe that comes down to
Yeah.
an area that allows an outlet.
Well, there's already a culvert across the road coming from the ball field side to the, just about where the property line splits these two lots. So that's also receiving water from the wetlands across the street.
mm-hmm.
It's not just runoff.
It flows all into.
Right.
Yeah, because there is standing water across the street.
Yeah. And this, I believe, is the outlet for it to get back to the pond.
But
So that standing water flows through this outlet, which is clogged?
This one here.
Oh, right here.
Oh, and there's another one there, right, but that one's,
has there been any change in the conditions since the paving of the street?
I haven't been there since heavy rain. Last time I was there was during the.
Yeah, so
snow
you
and
got,
rain
these two
back in the
now
spring.
are flowing into something that
I saw
doesn't.
that.
Prior to them
Then I saw on Hut
paving.
Top, I went, oh
Well, there's
crap,
an
now what's it gonna
existing
be like?
12-inch
And I haven't had a
pipe.
chance to get there to see if I can't see it being better because the Hut Top's up higher. You got a funny feeling it's gonna.
But this is the pipe that he says is clogged, right?
On the other, towards the, away from the properties to the next guy's. Driveway.
Yeah, isn't that the pipe that he says clogged?
308.
Were you required to get approval from the planning board on the 667 property at any point?
No, because when I bought the land, that parcel was already approved.
Already
It was
approved.
approved by the planning board, I don't know.
So you just built on it and just put your driveway in?
so you bought two lots?
What's that?
You bought two lots?
I bought two lots.
Okay.
667, 675, two separate lots.
There was no existing driveway there before. The only one was the one you're talking about today.
Okay, so you repositioned the driveway on that property?
Yeah, it's a whole brand new driveway.
It's a whole brand new driveway?
Seven has a new driveway.
And that one has a culvert underneath, or no?
And when you were building 667, so I heard that correctly, that plan did not go through conservation or?
It did go through conservation.
Okay.
It was already all approved.
675.
Okay.
Because somebody was gonna build a house on it, I guess the lady's nephew was gonna build a house.
I think I remember that meeting. I think I was at that meeting.
Fell through, and then I was only gonna buy 675, when 667 fell through, I bought that one also.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, it does sound like something that the DPW should be, at least
Well, yes and no. I mean,
asked about.
so the existing 12-inch drainage line was replaced by what's shown here as a proposed, was replaced by the 12-inch under the driveway for 675?
I haven't done anything yet.
Okay.
But that's what's approved to be done, correct?
That's what I'm asking for approval from you for.
Right.
Well, neither one of them are in the right-of-way. They're both on your property, and there's no drainage easement that I see. Is there a drainage easement at all? Because if it was within a drainage easement, then it would already be the responsibility of the town.
I don't know if there's a drainage easement.
I don't see one, and I would assume that Hannigan would have put one on had it existed.
Well, so you're dealing with, unfortunately, then you're dealing with an existing house, right? Where the problem occurs. And then we're dealing with this proposal, which is before us, which is in no way connected. There's not necessarily a nexus between this property and that one in terms of the drainage. So, what do you say then?
And the house
So what
that's
can you
already
do?
being built is just a single building lot that was already,
Drainage would be better, because then we can get to go in there, when we do, to put the new driveway in, and with the new pipes, we get to clean all that out. And we get to get rid of the old pipes that are all clogged up on the existing driveway.
It is overgrown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it sounds like what's really, I mean.
Yeah, the problem's
You
not
can do
with-
better, though, right? With a pipe going underneath the driveway, so.
But I can't go in there and do any, you can't even take logs out of there that have fallen without conservation.
No, the equipment, but I believe by hand you can.
So what you're left with, though, Matthew, is a water problem on the public roadway.
On private property, actually.
Well, not, if it's on the public roadway.
Well,
It's
there's
kind of
a
both.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but I mean, physically, it is beyond the right of way.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, doesn't it create a conundrum because the DPW does have a responsibility to make sure that the roadway is clear of water? So, whose problem does it become?
We've all driven this road when it's heavy rains, right?
Yeah.
So you've actually got to slow down.
Yeah.
Or you'll hydroplane off the road
Right, so
in a number of
I'm
places.
just trying to make the point that
Right.
it's hard to determine which,
Well, yes,
where we go with it.
I had the same problem at my house at a little further down the road, 586 Reservoir Road, and we had a puddle forming that was doing the hydroplane thing, and the DPW did come down and put a drain culvert in. So they addressed the problem. And I believe that problem was created by my house and the house next to mine, because our driveways dumped right down into that spot that was already wet.
So I mean, in my opinion, it's worth talking to them about.
it would be nice to get
but I
some
don't-
input from DPW.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't want to hold up any approval because it clearly has very little to do with this property that we're discussing tonight, except for the fact that if they're tied together, it would improve things all around. So, you don't want to give him an approval on something that he might need to modify.
Right?
They're not tied together, they're not even
Yeah,
close.
the work he's doing is below 675. So what he's going to do, he could probably go ahead and do it. This is going to drain towards that way. If it was the other way around, then it'd be more of an issue. But this is the higher end.
Oh, this is the higher end,
Right,
okay.
the lower end's where he wants to work, so that's, hopefully it'll help
The
with
puddle is
that.
the higher end, where I,
Oh, the puddle is the higher end, okay.
So,
because I'm in the floodplain, that's
Okay.
it's low.
that's why we're here.
sorry.
I didn't, the two properties is confusing me.
Yeah.
So in essence, the problem's gonna be there regardless of what he does on that, but it's just downhill from it, so unless-
Sounds like the problem's already there, from what this gentleman's stated. It sounds like the problem's from the previous construction. And from what, the Conservation Commission's going ahead and approving his current plans, I'm led to believe that whatever the current driveway issue is not going to make the current problem any worse, but it certainly doesn't, solve the neighbor's, concern, which is that after these two houses popped up, that his driveway is washing away.
Well, okay, we also can't forget that the conservation is charged with the Wetlands Protection Act.
Correct.
And that's it.
Yep.
That's it. So, and we're charged with a lot more, public safety, passability.
Yeah.
This would be a great time to hear from Switzerland.
Yes, well,
Switzerland?
we are up against the clock, but not enough so that we couldn't take no action and get input from him.
Is that gonna set you back?
In the meantime.
Considerably?
I don't think we have a problem with him working on 675, because like I said, it's below.
And that's what this public hearing is for.
Right.
Yes.
long as we can fix the issue while he's, actually might be able to do it at the same time while you're there when you get the equipment. Because, yeah, even if you're fixing that one, you're gonna be dealing with that wetland spot you're talking about because the driveway's on both sides.
But whatever I do over there, I gotta get permission.
Right, exactly.
But if you do something over there, it's going to probably feed into this existing wetland, yeah? That you're gonna rehabilitate, right? That you're gonna rebuild.
With the pipe in?
Yeah. The increased runoff is gonna be going there.
It'll go in there.
Yeah.
Which is-
So is that a problem for your existing plan to handle that? That's what I'm asking you.
No.
Okay. All right.
All the water ends up in that ditch eventually. The problem is, the way the berm is, it builds up before it goes in, or it ends up going across the road.
Yep. I just want to make
Yeah,
sure
it's-
that
it's-
it was
yeah.
adequate.
Yeah, it's not good.
Whatever you're doing
Slow
is.
or fast.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is make it go in there fast.
Okay.
When you on these plans, do you have them broken down into layers? In other words, you have a lot of stuff overlaying each other. Can you take what's here and put it on maybe 3 pieces of paper that are, kind of a little less busy?
You probably could, but to do that work that we're talking about, you would probably need all those layers, because you need the topos, you need the restoration plan, you kind of need all of it on.
Is there a way to do this then that has a color differentiation?
Color for,
As far as like a color code, 'cause what I would like to do, I'll tell you, as a side comment, I've read a lot of maps, and I went down there and I was thoroughly confused.
okay,
Looking at this, and I came back and I met with the land use director to kind of break this down and say, look, I don't really know what's going on over here, and I had my own difficulty reading this. I would like to take your map of what exactly is going on and do another site visit to get a better understanding of how what you're proposing is going to not add to what your neighbor is complaining about.
but we're
Well, I
lower.
think
It's
the
not gonna add to it.
slope downhill is downhill, unless he,
Yeah, it's not gonna add to it. Like I said, he's
Puddle they're
below.
talking about,
It's a problem,
probably
yeah.
3 or 4 feet.
is there a berm at the end of your driveway that they put in after paving?
No, it looks like the road came up more, but it made more of a berm for it to go across the street when it floods out.
Do you
know what I mean?
feel a berm?
Before it would come out the driveway or down off the road and would just spread out and go down, everything would go to the right as you look at the property towards, the lake.
So I don't think there's anything that could be done with this application that would, and again, he's not responsible for fixing the problem if it was pre-existing, he's just,
Yeah.
can't make it worse.
Well, it sounds like they're
I don't think
talking now.
anything- I don't
and-
think anything he's doing here is going to make it worse.
Yeah.
And again, there are avenues, they can either hopefully work something out amongst themselves or approach the DPW, but I think
Yeah,
as far
it might
as...
be, it might be a DPW issue where it's
Yeah.
right on the road. I'm not familiar with the rules on that.
Yeah.
Gentleman behind you. So.
I think the problem here is the ball got dropped when he first started.
Okay.
That's when it was supposed to be taken care of. For years, I used to open that ditch up myself, sometimes by hand, sometimes with my tractor. And when him and his brother were younger, they dug it.
Yeah.
You got kids, how hard is it to get kids to do that?
I can see the eye rolls behind you right now.
But it's escalating, getting worse.
Yeah.
And I just don't want it to get so bad that someday I won't be able to get out of my driveway.
Yeah.
Unless you want to come float me out.
What's hard in the wintertime is you get about that much water, freeze, thaw,
Yeah.
freeze, and then
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
Well, every time they resurfaced the road, it got higher and higher.
Yeah.
And when they did the water line,
Yeah.
I stopped the contractor and asked her to do something about the puddle, told me mind my own business. I said, this is my business.
Yeah.
Well, what do you do when the guy tells you that?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
That time he could have did a culvert across
Yep.
and connected to the other one.
Yeah.
You still can, I think.
I think they
I
can
think it's
still
fixable.
run
I
a,
think it's fixable right
I
now.
think they can
All
still
right.
pipe it
It's
across.
just a question of who's going to do it. And,
Under his driveway and into the thing.
yeah. Yeah.
But it'd be easier for him if, while he's doing his 675, instead of having to do it piecemeal.
Yeah, I hear you, but unfortunately, I'm in the same camp as Greg in terms of you know, this, unfortunately, we can't make him do that, you know what I'm saying?
Right, oh, yeah.
So,
I just figured make it whatever's easier for him to,
yeah.
Right, I mean, the people that bought the house, they don't want puddles.
right, exactly. They're gonna say,
So
hey.
we're gonna do something with, I talked with the paving company, they're gonna try to make a swale.
Okay.
I can't really put a pipe in, because I would have to go through all the conservation.
Right, no, and I guess there
Good
should be a plan on file with the approval from the conscom for the one that he's
Well,
building.
farther down, somebody built a house on the right, and I noticed they did a couple of French drains on both sides. And he has no puddle there now, everything just flows off into the swamp.
Well, again,
I
I think-
can't float it anywhere. If I push it that way, it's gonna be
Yeah.
in his driveway.
Yeah.
And Mr. Patri's replaced a couple of mailboxes from people coming on that corner in the wintertime and slide right across into his.
Yeah.
Short of him pulling up the driveway and putting in a pipe, what else can be done to remedy your,
Well, I don't know, I think when I made the complaint in the beginning, something should have been done then.
Yeah, but he's asking how to.
That was at the conscom, right? That was the conscom?
Conservation Commission?
It was over,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who did you
it's-
present to, though? Was it the conservation, or was it the building
whoever they
department?
sent me the letter from.
I think it was
I
conscom.
think it's when he first went for his permit for the houses.
I didn't go for that permit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he was the guy before you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
before him, but I remember that.
Before him,
I was
yeah.
at that meeting for some reason. I remember that meeting. I remember that driveway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
But who's liable if somebody gets hurt from the puddle?
that's the DPW or it's a 50/50.
That's what I mean, yeah. The
Does the town want
DPW,
that responsibility? I don't think so.
I think DPW, because of the drainage, you know, they're responsible for keeping the roadway safe for passage. So,
there should have
that would be
been
my guess. I'm not a lawyer.
and submitted with the application to conscom, and if this is different,
I tell you, the ball got dropped then.
then what's on, well, I'm saying if there's something different than what was on that proposed approved plan, then that would be
All
your
I know, I was
recourse.
told that no water would be coming off his property onto Reservoir Road. But it's not like that, because the grade goes from the house to the street. How much of a grade is that? How long is that driveway?
Kind of like a 1 and 2. But it's all gravel, there's no way water rushes.
Right, right now, it's not
Absorbs
paved.
into the property.
It's
Yeah,
just a
it's-
dirt
Maybe in
driveway.
winter if it's all frozen, but other than that.
Where's the puddle come from if it absorbs in your driveway?
It comes from the road and comes from
Told
the,
me the puddle's always been there, I don't know.
yeah, it gets
No
it's
idea.
more from the road and stuff.
Well, it's getting deeper and wider.
For the sake of moving things along, I'll put it to the board. I don't think we have the ability to make him remediate a problem that was existing
I'll do whatever.
on a property that, I mean, if you're willing to work together amongst yourselves, that
Yeah,
would
I'll
be
go
great.
down with
I would
him.
appreciate
I'll do what I
that.
can without, I can't.
I understand about not being able to.
And also, what I would suggest to you, that you have the issue, is to take it back to the agent and say, this is the issue that I have, because it does.
I
deal
got a
with
tractor, I
everyone's-
can dig the ditch.
What's that?
I don't have-
Get in trouble.
I think it's fortunate that all of you seem like reasonable people, and that, it sounds like the solution here, as Greg just mentioned, is not something that necessarily
Yeah,
we're gonna be able
rather
to.
see it Finished, I mean, fixed before it's finished, because then it's a problem.
Yeah.
You put hot top and shrubs, and you don't want to, once it's all nice and set up, you don't want to be trying to fix it then you're going to make a mess.
Yeah, but it sounds as if you're getting a commitment that he's willing to do
Right.
whatever he can do.
Oh, yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna live there, I'm gonna be, it's gonna be my neighbor.
Oh, this is your house.
Yeah. 675.
When you're building up,
No, he's the new one. It's nothing there yet.
The one
He's
that's
going to be to the
built
right.
is already sold.
you're gonna have to live next to the guy you sell the house to with the property. Lots of luck.
It'll be fine.
I think that's,
That
I
should
mean,
be a
that's,
testimony to the quality of his building. right?
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. I don't think there's any thing that could be done on this to alleviate any of the problems, so.
I make a motion to approve the
I
plan.
agree.
Or are we too soon for that?
Just with, is there any more discussion from the board?
I just had a question. What was the outcome of the tax discussion?
Alrighty, so we received an email that there are some delinquent taxes on at 675 Reservoir Road, so I did speak with the town manager today. The amount is minimal. So basically, we
Yeah, I got a phone call on that.
there, well, hold on, let me explain, and then we can deal with it. So basically, the policy is that if their taxes are more than a year delinquent, we have the ability to withhold a special permit physically. They're still entitled to their due process, so we would still grant an approval or whatever we decide to do, but they wouldn't physically get the permit until the taxes that are a year or more delinquent.
And what are they? And how much?
$19.62.
Oh, man.
Well, so in my discussion with the town manager, that is, they're looking to have that be the standard before they issue a permit or a license. They always make sure that people's, and this is just taxes, that the taxes are paid up to date, so.
I'll go tomorrow.
Well, again, we can condition it, and again, basically what you would have to do is bring a check to the tax assessor at the same day that you pick up your
So you have to include that in
permit.
motion.
That's,
I do have one more comment. In looking through the special permit is applied for under 4.8, which is the floodplain district. 4.8.3.3A4, uses permissible by special permit granted by the planning board. And then the fourth under A is the board may specify such additional requirements and conditions it finds necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public and occupant of the proposed use.
Yeah. Yep.
Again, being down elevation,
Yeah.
the 675 proposed use is not going to have any impact on that elevated puddle.
Right.
Correct.
Correct.
But anyways, I don't have the but.
so I guess I would entertain a motion.
All right, make a motion that we approve the plan contingent upon him providing,
Oh, sorry, I need to close the public hearing.
I'm sorry, thank you.
So I entertain a motion to close the public hearing, and then we can deliberate.
So moved?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That means we're not going to take any more testimony, so you guys can deliberate amongst ourselves. So, okay, now I would entertain a motion.
All right, I'm too much biting at the chops here. All right, I make a motion to approve the plan as submitted, contingent upon him paying the town, the applicant. Special permit, contingent upon the applicant providing the town outstanding taxes.
Second.
There we go.
Any discussion? All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Again, I would contact the CONSCOM and the land use director. Pardon me? Right, yeah, let's see if there's a way to alleviate that problem.
And double check the CONSCOM condition of orders on 676, you never know.
But like I said, I think it's fixable now.
Yeah.
It's just gravel, we call it gravel, it's stone, it's not. It's kind of funny, let them put it
Yeah. That is,
This is the first note we got on it.
yeah.
Next door. Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Alrighty.
Do we have?
Moving on, our next appointment is a continuation of the public hearing for 40 Pioneer Drive. Before the applicant presents, we did receive the information after the deadline, so it's at the board's discretion to consider that tonight or to not.
Could you repeat that, sir?
Pardon me?
Could you repeat that?
So they did not meet the Tuesday night deadline, so it's at the board's discretion if we feel we had enough time or didn't have enough time to review the materials. We do have some options. We can ask that they continue, or we can just take no action because we are not up against the clock.
This is Pioneer.
Yes.
How much did they miss the deadline by?
A day.
24 hours.
I called on Wednesday. I talked to Adam. He told me Margaret was out come the next day because he wasn't going to handle any of the paperwork, so.
Yeah, I had spoken to him on Thursday regarding this issue, so he said that if we, and again, it's up to each member to decide for themselves whether they have enough time to review the materials. We can
As you
take-
know, I didn't have any internet connection. I had no way to get the plans for the last few days either, so I have not had a chance to review everything carefully, but if applicant's rep has time and for me to look at it now.
No, and I could give you an overview of what we changed in the plan, and I think it's relatively minor.
I'm not opposed to hearing them out tonight.
Well, again, it
Personally.
doesn't make it so we can't hear the proposal, but again, it's up to us. We're not under the gun, under the timeline, so we have the time to ourselves just to take no action tonight, and it would move forward automatically to the next meeting. So
Good.
I would take a straw poll, I guess, of the board, whether they vote.
Well, I'd like to hear them out, and if, as long as, what do you take, what are you
I'm
calling?
saying now we need to decide whether or not we've had enough time to review the information to make a
This is
decision.
new information.
Right.
I have not.
I'm fine
No.
with moving forward.
No,
No, you don't feel you've had enough time?
no, I do not.
In addition to not having a director with us, I think that would move us to.
Right. So I would entertain a motion that, not meeting the deadline, that we still allow the applicant to present, but just not take any action tonight regarding a vote. And I would need that in the form of a motion.
Can I ask the board to not make a decision on the second part of that until you see what's in front of you tonight? Because I don't really think there's a lot of changes to it compared to what you asked for at the last meeting.
It's a decision the board needs to make, and that's why I'm addressing it now with them.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
A second.
To not accept the information?
To not accept information.
Well, to not take action.
Not take
To not
the
take
fact-
action.
Due to the fact that we have not had enough time to review the information.
You have a second, so.
Okay, all in favor?
No discussion? No
Oh,
further?
any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to hear them out.
Okay.
If that's all right.
Well,
But
if I could just
he's
ask the
chair.
board nicely to put that in two separate items. First, let me present tonight the information, and if at the end of my presentation you don't want to make action on it, then you can have that decision. But I'd rather have a couple minutes of your time to be able to present the plan that's been revised before you make that decision. And the reason I say that is because when I look at the revisions that are to the plan is really no surprise to what you're going to see on the plan, because you already know what's going to happen after the last meeting, because you know we had to eliminate one of the entrances. So there's really no big surprise in front of you tonight. It's basically what you asked for at the last meeting is on the plan. And that's why we're here tonight, to kind of go over that presentation with you. And that's why when I talked to Adam, he at least wanted us to come to be able to hopefully present to the board. And even if it's, everything's in line, maybe we don't have to decide tonight because you don't have Graves' last letter, or maybe the board feels strong enough that you can make a decision on it, whichever way. But I'd rather, again, asking politely to be able to present to you and make that, I don't know, revise your motion, I guess, from that standpoint.
Well, for me, it comes down to it's black and white in the bylaw, the timeline for that. And again, either we had enough time or we didn't, and there is a motion and a second.
Mr. Chair, does that decision have to be made before the presentation?
That was Adam's recommendation
Okay.
on Thursday. so.
Okay.
When I talked to Adam, and maybe had a different discussion with him, but my understanding was two separate items completely. That you guys first decide, do you even want to hear from us tonight? Second, you can decide, like I said, later on, if you want to make a decision, because our timeframe's not up tonight, obviously, or within the next 2 weeks. And so that's why I asked if you make a motion just to be able to hear us first.
So, we also did not receive the engineering input on this final set of plans. And so, if we do not say that we didn't have enough time, we Still could just continue it based upon the fact that we haven't received recommendations, right?
Well, it's up to, it's up to the applicant to request a continuance, but we have 90 days from the initial public hearing to make a decision, so we're not in jeopardy. I think we're 20-something days into that. So if he doesn't request a continuance, then we have the ability just to take no action, and it'll automatically continue to the next meeting. And we won't be up against the deadline. So for me, I would have liked to have gotten it on time so that we could have possibly gotten Jeff's feedback as well, and Adam's, so.
Well, you do have a memo from Adam. At least I have a copy of a memo from Adam. I think Marjorie gave it to the board members.
Is hearing him out tonight going to have an effect on the clock? I don't believe it
No.
is. Okay, no effect at all.
No, we can hear him out, but we don't have to take action.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm, that's all
And
I'm
you
asking.
want a deci-
We
excuse
can
me.
still do that.
You want a decision on whether or not we're going to take action.
I want a
Now.
decision on whether or not you felt we've had enough time to review the materials, because that's what it says in the bylaw. That's what the deadline is for. We set that deadline, so we have ample time to review the materials prior to the public hearing.
Understood. Okay.
So there is a motion and a second on the table at
And what
this
was the
point to not, to,
Not take action.
that we did not have enough time.
To take action.
To
And so
take
we-
an action.
So we don't want to hear from them tonight.
No,
We can still hear him out, we just.
But we're not going to take action.
Not
Yeah.
take an action.
That's what's on the table.
Yes.
Okay.
To hear him, but no action.
Thank you. All right.
And there's a motion and a second to that effect on the table now.
Thank you. I'm done with my discussion.
So, everyone in favor of saying that we did not have enough time to review the materials?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we can hear out the applicant.
Okay.
We can take any comment, public comment.
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
So, one of the things that after looking at the last presentation first, I was quite excited about this proposal. I think this is a great thing for you guys as a company to expand, the company you represent to expand and to choose to remain in Lunenburg during this expansion. And I was really concerned about the two driveway statement that's in our current bylaw. And I'll tell you how I read it was I kind of felt as if it was a parking lot. That was my opinion. But, you know, after meeting with Greg, our chairman, it was very clear that the language in the law was two lots. You know, well, each lot gets two driveways. It's crystal clear. What I also did was I took the time to go around town and take a look at what do other businesses do here in town. What are other residential properties, other commercial properties doing? And I'll just give a quick survey. Powell's, which is located on Livingston Shirley Road, has 8 curb cuts. Now, I know that there's multiple lots, but they have 8 curb cuts. PJ Keating's, I don't know how to define their curbs down at PJ Keating's. It's basically, you know, a good quarter-mile stretch of no curbs. Even looking at the farms, most of the farms in town have 3 or 4 curb cuts. Every other business on Pioneer Drive has 3 or 4 or more curb cuts. I think it would be in our best interest to modify the language, to request to modify the language of the bylaw to give an exception to industrial property. And I would like, I know this is later conversation, but...
It's something we can pursue, but it is in there for a reason. I mean, if you look at some of these smaller commercial properties, having 3 curb cuts could create a dangerous.
Correct.
We did just review that within the last 18 months, and again, I'm not opposed to putting something forward, because I agree with you. I think that in this instance, and we look at everything as individuals, that the distance between the 2 and the 3rd is extreme, so I don't think it would cause a huge, and they also have the ability to seek relief through a variance for that. So, and as a board, we have the ability to support that to the
Right.
ZBA if they came to us and said, we're going to present this to the ZBA, we have the ability as a board to support that or not support it, depending on how we feel.
That's my only question is do they really plan on submitting plans afterwards that are they
Why
requesting
don't we
relief?
hear the applicant out, and those are some of the questions, because I did have,
Instead of two cuts?
pardon me?
Doesn't the revised plan have one cut instead of two?
Existing one.
One existing on the left-hand side. And I'll go over that in a
So,
second
yeah.
if you want. So, I just want to make a comment. I know, obviously, the first item that we talked about was date of submission and so forth. In all fairness to the applicants, can you, and we have a great relationship with Graves. I don't want to poke any at Graves or Jeff Walsh, but the date that he submitted our letter and the date of the public hearing that we had in front of you, this was well after that deadline also. It was like the Friday before that meeting. Obviously, it doesn't really give us a lot of chance to make any changes to the plans. So if we're going to be held to the same standard, I just ask that they be held to the same standard, just so we have a little more time if we can make revisions in a little more timely manner. And that's part of the reason that, obviously the plans were submitted at the time they were, is there's some work that had to be done here on these plans, obviously after we had a conversation with this board, getting back from our applicant, having conversations with the building inspector to make sure what was talked about here is actually how the building inspector is going to look at the regulations and the zoning bylaw. And if it was, again, we asked the same question, is it 2 per parking lot, is it 2 per lot? There are actually 2 lots here. Is there a way to create lots here to make it work that we're not necessarily in non-conformance to the zoning bylaw, but we don't have any other frontage on Pioneer Drive at this current point for that second lot that the applicant owns. We looked at other options, bringing out the driveway out to Leominster Shirley Road, but we just didn't think it was in the best interest of this project or the town to bring out another entrance up to Leominster Shirley Road. So that's kind of why timing of it worked to get into tonight's meeting and getting the plans to you when we did. I did have a chance to sit down with Mr. Walsh last week after I submitted the plans to the board. He's on vacation this week, so he wasn't going to have a chance to get a letter to you guys before tonight's meeting because he was working on his own stuff, to be honest with you, other than just peer review stuff. And so that's why you don't see a letter tonight. Obviously, when he gets back from vacation, he'd said he'd issue a letter to you guys. He didn't seem to have too much of an issue with the proposed changes that we had because we basically addressed all of his issues in his letter. And I can go point by point once I present the plan to you with regards to that. Before I present the plan to you, I do have a memo from our water engineer. I know, Mr. Allison, I believe you asked a question about sufficient water for fire protection out on the property.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know Mr. Cleaves from our office had told us that I think we want to make sure that you guys had a copy of this. So they haven't done the actual inside design yet for the sprinkler system, but looking at the flow test that we performed out there, we have a memo just making a statement that there is adequate water flow and pressure on Pioneer Drive to supply fire protection for this project. So I'll give Marjorie, do you want to see that?
I think the fire chief had actually sent us a memo regarding that.
So we did.
Right, and that's what I know. It was just a question about, should you see that now, or when should you see that? I know at the time we made the statement that a lot of that information is taken care of when we actually apply for the building permit, because that's
Right.
when that information is actually prepared.
Yeah.
Right now, we're kind of in the first step in a multi-step process. But I want to make sure you guys knew that there was enough water pressure out there, enough fire flow out there. Another item that, from a housekeeping standpoint, is I also issued a letter to the board, and I think you all have that with regards to the one waiver.
Yeah.
I know you guys talked about it at the last meeting.
Yep.
It didn't seem like anybody had too much of an issue with it. I know Mr. Walsh didn't have an issue with it. I think there was, we explained to him about the waiver, and so I just made sure I made that official request for the waiver. And I didn't know if that was something that we could act on tonight, at least with regards to this additional waiver. I know at the last meeting, all the rest of the waivers were acted on. So as we get going tonight, I don't know if that's something that we could talk about also, about maybe acting on this waiver, just so that last item is not left hanging with regards to waivers. What I'll do is I'll quickly go over the proposed revisions to the plan, show you where we are now with regards to the plans, and I'll go over the memo that Adam had drafted back in the beginning of this month, and also, again, I can go over Graves' review letter just on how he addressed his issues there too. So what I have here in front of you right now is the plan that you had seen at the last meeting showing the new entrance on the right-hand side, the northern side, the existing entrance that leads you to the professional office area, and also the employee parking. And there's also the loading dock area that's existing now over on the left-hand side. And so that was the plan that you saw last time when we were in front of you. And so what we did is, and again, like I said, no real surprise here, and I think it was talked about the last meeting, was eliminating that middle entrance. Obviously, there's a necessity here to have this new entrance on the right-hand side to provide access to the loading docks in the rear. And so what we did is we tied in the parking along the front of the building with just this offset, the spur right here that would bring you into that L-shaped parking lot here. The reason we had shown the design the way it is in this location here, not a little lower, was just because of the way the grades worked out. The way this driveway it comes up at a fairly steep grade up to this point here. And to get the grades to work out, we showed the entrance into that parking field a little higher than originally I think we had thought. And I don't know if we made that presentation here at the last meeting, but originally we were trying to come in at a little lower point here, but if we did that, we'd lose a substantial amount of parking to get those grades to work in this area here. And so by bringing the point of access in for the parking field, we were able to keep a similar amount of parking spaces and actually able to gain about 4 parking spaces when we eliminated this entrance here. So we're, instead of at 95 parking spaces that we had shown before, we're at 99 parking spaces. Again, not ideal necessarily from the standpoint of making a long trek down for the office area within the new building and the existing building. But from the standpoint of what we're trying to accomplish here, we do show only now 2 entrances off of Pioneer Drive, one here, and then again, the existing one here for the loading docks. I know it was obviously asked at the last meeting and discussed. There's no way to really eliminate this because of the way they operate the building currently. And really the way they're going to look at phasing out in the new building, this is really still going to be the main loading area when they first come in operation, where this is only going to, as needed, as they start using the space here, then they'll start using these loading docks. So these loading docks really aren't necessary even for the first year of operation, is the way we're being told by the user of the building. It's really, again, these loading docks here are going to stay in operation and be the main operating loading docks. One of the things that I know Adam, and I know it didn't come up in his letter, but he asked me about this, and so what we had done, originally we had shown it to be 35 feet wide. Part of the regulations, there's a gray area there with regards to access to loading docks and access to parking fields, and so we shrunk that down to 30 feet. Now that this is our main driveway into the parking field, it was something that he made us or asked us to change, and so we did reduce that down to 30 feet to meet the zoning requirements for the width of an access driveway to like I said, a parking field. Again, by eliminating this entrance here, we are eliminating some impervious surface. By making this change here, we're eliminating a small portion of impervious surface. Small items, we were able to eliminate a couple catch basins on the project by tying in this parking field here and also tying in this parking field here, that we don't have that break in the parking fields now, that we were able to eliminate a couple structures. So from a standpoint of the drainage, it kind of, like I said, very minor changes, but those are some of the things that I had a chance to go over with Mr. Walsh. Again, they don't really change the size of the detention basins or anything like that. They just have to do with the piping network. So what I did is I submitted the revised calculations showing those changes to Mr. Walsh, and I also gave a copy for the file to Adam when I submitted the plans for that also. A couple of things that we'd added for detail-wise, and I know it came up in Mr. Walsh's letter, had to do with tree type, and so we showed the tree type being on the plan. After talking with the landscaper that does all the landscape work on this site, it was decided to propose crabapple trees. There's a couple of different kinds that they're going back and forth with the landowner. What he wants to do is he wants to keep a tree that doesn't necessarily grow as tall as the building. He wants to keep a lower profile tree. He wants to be able to see the building a little more. So when you're driving up, you at least be able to see the building. He doesn't want to cover the building, especially with the newer part of the building, where he wants to kind of show off the new building, especially the new entranceway that they're trying to build there also. So that was one of the items that came up. I know that Graves had, and also Adam had with regards to one of those comments that he had in his memo with regards to the landscaping. And so what we show in the plan is the landscaping required for the parking lot. There are additional landscaping that will occur in the front of the building, but until the final entrances are decided, we weren't going to go and show, actual locations of a shrub. I know they were talking, the landscaper was talking about putting some shrubs in on the face of the building that doesn't deter from the look of the building. But there was some conversation about, smaller shrubs and so forth that would happen in the front of the building, but it was something that they didn't want to make any kind of hard, fast decision until they get the building up and they start to see what the building's going to look like, until they can kind of start planting some of the lower shrubs and so forth. One of the other items, and I don't know if, like I said, you had a chance to look at the memo that Adam had issued on August 3rd. I know it was addressed to the chairman. It had a comment in here that he actually had a chance to check with the building inspector about the parking requirements. The building commissioner came back and said that the number that we use for parking demand on here was reasonable for this type of demand. So again, like I said, we're showing 99 spaces now. The requirement was 95 spaces by the square footage of the building. Number two, I just touched on with regards to the planting plan, and this is where Adam was deferring back to the board with regards to what you want to see. Like I said, what we show for landscaping is the required landscaping per your zoning for parking lots. For the exterior parking lots, we show that spacing that's required under your zoning bylaw. Like I said, there will be additional landscaping, but that's going to be done by the owner's wishes. He does want to have some more, like I said, more plantings out there, but he doesn't know exactly what the number is that's going to be. Number three has to do with the three entrances. Again, now we're back to two entrances. Yes, the intent is to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals to get the third entrance, but we will do that process once they start putting the foundation in the ground. Worst case scenario is this right here for the AC. Best case scenario is the ZBA does allow them to have that third entrance back in the middle. And I know part of the discussion, and I don't know if didn't really come in with Adam's letter, but I know when we were talking about when he was going to write up the decision, and I know when he and Marge are going to work on writing decisions and conditions of the decision, is part of it was to phase out that center driveway as that right-hand driveway finally came in full service to service the parking field. And so that was something that the way he wanted to, and he was going to bring it to the board's attention, I think, when the decision was written, was to phase out that center parking access, leave it in while the construction's going on, because the right-hand side's not going to be operational until basically the project's paved and fully built out. And so once that's happening, that middle driveway will be ripped out.
Be removed, okay.
And then that right-hand side will be paved, and then they can use that and access the parking field from that right-hand driveway. And that was one of the things that I know, like I said, I don't think it came in with regards to how he was envisioning the phasing, but that was the way he was talking about writing the condition on how that was going to work out, such that we can kind of phase that in, if that ends up being the way it has to be. Obviously, if the ZBA approves it in between, obviously that's the intent, is hopefully over the wintertime, we can get the ZBA to look at this, get an approval, we'll be back in front of the planning board for a modification to an approval. Number four has to do with bicycle parking. Adam brought it to my attention from the last meeting until now. There were two spots that we had looked at, and this is something that we had brought, actually, we were talking about with the landscaper. There's a grassed area in here that was the first area that we looked at, and also in the area back here. And so we have two options. And so we were waiting to hear back from the landscaper on how he wanted to do this area, and then how he wanted to landscape the rest of it, and see which best fits into the overall theme of the landscaping. Like I said, we have two options that are closer to the main entrance there that we could put a bicycle rack in there. And I think in Adam's letter, he says we need to make sure we have a bicycle rack that shows 5 bicycles, or enough capacity for 5 bicycles by our parking demand. So that was something that, when he brought it up, he thought that's something that the board can condition such that you require us to show a bike rack that provides for 5 bike stalls. And I know right in your zoning regulations, they're very specific on the length of that bike stall has to be, and I think it's 6 feet
6
or
feet
whatever.
by,
Yeah. So we have no issue with that. Like I said, we have a couple options there. It's just a matter of really when the final, even the final building plan is, and I know they're talking about what they want even that section of that building to look at, because I know that, I think in the last plan, last time we were in front of you, they showed you some of the renderings, and I think I gave you copies of the renderings in the initial application, how they want the entrance to look, and they don't want to, they're going back and forth. They want to have that bicycle rack there next to the entrance, or they want to have it tucked off to the side a little bit, so you don't necessarily see it when you come up to the building. So that's something they're tossing around. Again, it's past my pay grade to make that decision, to be honest with you. That's something like I said, they have no problem putting one in, they just don't know where they want to put it at this point. And if you want, I can quickly just go over a couple of things that we took care of with regards to the Graves Engineering letter. Again, I know at the last meeting, we talked about the 4 waivers. Number 3 had to do with the existing conditions plan. We did make sure on the set that you have there, it is stamped by the land surveyor now. Number 4 has to do with that waiver that I gave you since the last meeting. 5, I added the abutters' names to the plan. Number 6, I showed the information for the Dunkin' Donuts across the street and also the house, the closest house up to the northwest corner of the property also, so I made sure I showed the property there. And the driveway openings for the Dunkin' Donuts also. Number 9 has to do with the WIC drain, and so I changed the WIC drain, which is within the 2 stormwater basins, to what the recommendation is by Graves, to instead of having stone, we changed it to septic sand. So I made that change. Number 10 has to do with actually an addition of a drain manhole, where before I had these 3 pipes coming right into the existing drain line of Pioneer Drive. Now I added a drain manhole as recommended by Graves, such that these 3 pipes come into 1 manhole, and I only have 1 connection into the drain in Pioneer Drive. Simple enough change. Like I said, it just adds 1 structure onto the site. Number 11, I know we talked about it at the last meeting. I know Mr. Cleaves from my office had talked about it. We looked at the turning movements on it, and the way we had set up the site anyways, we had given ourselves a few more feet on that loading dock area. Typically, we show 120 feet. From loading from building to edge of pavement, we show 130 feet, plus we show that little stub in the backside up top there, such that the trucks can have a little more maneuverability, so they can kind of swing in and around where they need to. And we took, like I said, we did review that ourselves and with the applicant, just to make sure that they're comfortable with that. Number 12 and 13, we added those items onto the plan, and same with number 14, we added some labels onto the drainage plan, the utilities plan, just calling out what structures needed to be removed inside the building, what pipes need to be removed, and I know I had notes on there already about some of the pipes that needed to be replumbed inside the building as it was. Some of the roof drains from the existing building tied into the existing drainage system that's under the new building, and then same with the sewer service that for the new build, or for the old building, has to be replumbed under the new building, and they'll tie all that in together. And so as part of the building, the plumbing plans that go to the building inspector, all that information will be in there with regards to underneath the existing new building.
Okay.
We don't show that in our, again, ours is the civil aspect of the drawings. Once they get the mechanical guys and all that stuff, and the plumbing guys, all those plans will be completed and given to the building inspector for his final sign-off. But again, it's, like I said, it's not a huge change. I think everybody kind of expected, I think, the change that was on the plan, being the 1 entrance being eliminated. There was no way around it to basically get an approval from the planning board without having a ZBA approval first. We didn't want to go through their process. We'd rather do it in this sequential steps. Obviously, they're looking to get, just so you're aware, and I'm not sure if they made it clear to you guys last meeting, they're really looking to get into the ground as soon as possible, obviously to, beat the winter time, get the foundation in such that that's going before we get any of the winter season, and then they can start putting the building up during the winter. If they can get the ZBA at the time to approve that 3rd entrance, they'll do that, and we'll be back in front of you for a modification while they're putting the building up. And that's really the sequence, and that's why, again, I was, not to be pushy in the beginning of the meeting, but that's, they're excited to get in the ground because they want to beat the winter time. And obviously and that's why at the last meeting, they kind of wanted to push as fast as they could, and even at this meeting, they, push as much as we can to at least get into the ground.
In my discussion with Adam, I did discuss signage.
Yep.
You don't have a proposed sign at the entrance, which is fine, and if you want to propose one of those later, you can come back, but as far as like directional signage,
Yeah, so I did add 1 directional sign.
loading bays or,
So the only sign that I added.
sorry, thank you.
The only sign that we added right now for directional wise is I added a sign here, and the intent there is that there'll be an arrow going up toward the loading area and then an arrow going to the left for office and visitors. and such that, they'll know to take a left here at this entrance or keep going for the loading area. And that was it for right now for signage. Any of the signage I know in the building, they're just looking at moving a lot of the signage or basically replacing what's there now with a newer sign. And I think some of the signage we do show on the architectural plans that we gave you. But other than that, we don't really show any other signs. I know the intent is to keep their existing sign here, where they might, obviously the same size will stay, but they might replace what's there in place. Because I don't know if you've been out to the site, but it's a pretty large, substantial sign that they have next to their existing driveway. And so they're just looking to maybe upgrade that as part of this whole project, because I think they have a new logo that they want to attach to that instead of what's there now. But other than that, that was really the only signage that they had talked about putting up. Obviously, if there's two separate driveways, when we come back in front of you for a modification, if that happens, then if they want to put an additional sign up, we'll bring that sign in front of you then. For right now, that's the only signage that they had talked about putting up. Right now, if you go out there, there's really no signage other than that big, large sign.
Any more comments from the board?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, actually.
Sure.
Just in terms of the landscaping for the bays. You have a house, I believe you're on, is there that's a residential zone to the?
No.
Oh, that's also?
They're all, yeah, I think they're in the same zoning as we are.
Residential use.
Residential is an existing non-conforming grandfathered use from.
It is?
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, so the zoning is
actually commercial or industrial?
Correct. Yeah. Okay. And that was another reason that when we looked at this, and I know there was some conversation about the residential house, was that when, in between this meeting and the last meeting, when we were talking about coming out to Leominster Shirley Road, we didn't really think the board would be in favor of that, because I know there was a lot of conversation about still keeping that buffer between the residents and that loading dock area. And if obviously we bring the driveway out to Leominster Shirley Road, then we're causing a closer disturbance to that residence.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the glare of the lights and whether or not you're going to have adequate buffering with that. Is that going to stay? Is that what that is, landscaping there?
Yeah, and so it's...
Have a nice
So it's all
plan.
treated here, it's somewhat treated in a field more than anything in here. So there have to be a little bit more tree clearing that have to be done in here. The existing tree line, somewhat, and even what we showed, I know they've kind of removed a little more of the trees in here as part of their field. But the intent is to obviously leave as much of the green space as we can, as much of the mature trees. And the only lights that we showed is on the building that would be dark sky compliant.
Yeah, I'm just worried about screening for parking under 6.4, what is it, 643D, just talks about when it's, when you're up against a residential use. Residential street and the outdoor parking lot, loading bays. No, it says uses. In all residential and mixed uses, or on a lot in any district which abuts or is across the street from a residential use, in the outdoor parking lot, all loading bays, maneuvering aisles, and driveways serving a multi-family or non-residential use shall be screened in a manner to protect abutting lots from the glare of headlights, noise, and other nuisance factors. So I just want to make sure that that was adequately buffered.
And that's why if you look at that, I mean,
because that is a residential use there. But it looks like you are, as long as that tree line, you intend to keep that.
No, that's the intent there. And even
Okay.
that, you're looking at, we're 200 feet from the house to the edge of pavement.
Mm-hmm. I think that's actually the requirement, 200 feet, so, yeah, okay. All right.
And then like I said, that's another reason why we didn't want to bring out the driveway out to Leominster Shirley Road.
Yeah.
Because we knew how you guys were, at the last meeting, concerned about that one residential house there.
Okay.
Not only that, that's already a fairly busy interchange there with.
Well, and that's exactly, and that's what we're looking at too, is now we'd have two busy intersections with a driveway in between it with really, it would be only truck traffic, but it still doesn't really ideal. There's nothing in the regulation saying you can't do it, but we'd rather not. We'd rather get a variance from the ZBA and say this is what we want to do and be done with it that way.
Okay. And then the snow storage does not impact, even if you did there's no snow storage to the left of the parking lot, so that's good, because that's not that anyone's going to ride a bicycle to work in the wintertime, but.
How many people do ride their bikes to work?
Out here, I wouldn't want to ride my bike, to be honest with you. After seeing the way they move in and out of that, around that intersection, I wouldn't want to ride my bike over here. Like you said, even with Keating down the street, yeah, there's no way. But again, it's a requirement, so we'll meet the requirement. If a couple people ride their bike, they do.
That was my only concern, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
I have a concern, when I heard you talking about a response from the fire chief, at the first meeting we had, there was discussion about his first comment was that, given the size and addition of potential high dollar loss, we'd like to have a reviewing fire protection engineer for the project. That was a statement, and I don't know that it's been addressed or even mentioned.
Well, I think that's something that, when he gets the plans himself, he has to make that decision himself. Because that's going to be under the building permit part of it.
Okay.
Because we don't, under your site plan regulations, we don't necessarily need to submit the building plans and the fire suppression system in the building. That's part of the building permit application. So we'd like to leave it up to basically the building inspector and the fire chief to make that decision then.
We can ask for clarification on that, and
I wrote it down, so I'm pretty sure, I thought we did that last meeting, but that's fine, we can ask for it. There have been, and you fixed you addressed the curb cut issue, you addressed the parking, you added 4 more spots, you addressed the connection and the street drainage, which is very good, thank you.
Welcome.
The fire chief comment, things we also had spoken about at the last meeting was their truck parking maneuvers. We don't think we formalized it, but I had mentioned the possibility of truck turning movements. But if they have gone with more than what they were comfortable with, the owners of the building, I'm comfortable with that. I mean, our primary concern is maneuvers at the street.
Right.
If they're gonna shoot themselves in the foot with their loading conditions.
I think Jeff addressed that at the last meeting. He said that.
He said they had plenty.
They actually had 5 feet more than they needed.
Right.
Especially with that little bump out, he was happy
So
with
with the
that.
bump out, it would be adequate.
I had something written down about a doghouse manhole, and that must be the connection to the existing drainage?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think so.
Yep. And so we just adjusted the detail to what he
Okay.
wanted.
I think that's what it was. It wasn't a detail for it.
Yep,
Okay,
yep, and so
there
we
is
just call out that they make sure there's an invert constructed in the manhole.
Okay.
Now we show it that way. When we apply with the DPW to actually do the work, if they want us to put in a real, not a doghouse, they want to put us in, a real manhole and cut off the pipe and tie it in that way, we'll do it however they tell us to do it, basically, but that's the way we show it. I think that's easier to construct that way, but I know a lot of towns now are getting away from that because sometimes you don't get the proper connection on them.
And that was all that I had.
I have a question for the chair.
Sure.
Did what we already vote on exclude us from discussing the waiver request?
No,
Okay.
we can still address the waiver. So I think we've had ample discussion. The only reason I just wanted to formalize it in written form, I didn't have an issue with the waiver itself. I would entertain a motion if someone chose to make one regarding the waiver for the horizontal datum.
Yeah, yes.
Vertical.
Vertical, yeah, the horizontal's the importance.
Yeah, we put the,
Yeah, I move we
Okay.
approve that waiver for the vertical data.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I think you did a good job addressing all of our concerns.
thank you.
Add my thanks to Matthews.
Yeah.
So, and I know obviously we haven't finished, so the only thing that's outstanding in my eyes right now is to get something from Graves to say that he was okay with the updated plans. Is that basically where we're sitting before the next meeting? And then the fire chief item, which we could talk to Adam about and see how he wants to handle
I
that.
thought we had agreed that the fire chief item would come out during the building permit.
Yeah, that's
process
correct. That was not an actual.
And the planning board.
I honestly don't recall that specific conversation, but I did write it down, so.
He had teeth pulled that night. I believe we talked
do
about it.
recall
Everyone
that.
seemed to understand that that was part of that process.
So that's,
Yeah.
that's what I thought too, and that's what
Yeah.
like I said, I have notes from the
But
meeting.
it's-
That's
appreciate, bringing the note along.
As a comment, I think this is a great plan. I think it's even better with 3 driveways, but but I think it's a great plan. And I think you have the benefit of having, from my understanding, a really good company that you're working with.
No, and that's what these guys are, like I said, I think they kind of presented you last meeting, is they had options, but they wanted to stay in town. They kind of liked the site. They wanted to expand here, so.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like the fact that they're staying in town, and again, we do have the ability to support the third curb cut if you
Right.
do want to.
Yep, and that's what, like I said, that's
Again,
their
it
intent.
depends on how and when it's proposed, but if you
Yep.
want to get
Come
our
back.
celebrity endorsement, so to speak.
Can we
can't hurt.
can we endorse that to the zoning board that we would
We give
support
an
it?
opinion that
Yeah.
Yeah,
that we're-
they do,
in this particular instance, with the distance between the curb cuts, that we don't see an issue or.
When would be the appropriate time to offer that opinion? Once they submit?
when we,
to
yeah,
them?
when we submit the application, it goes to all the different departments. And so at that time, you get to make any kind of comments you want as part of that, that permit, so.
Yeah, we can even, if we don't have a meeting in between, I believe we can ask Adam to write a letter on our behalf as well.
Okay.
Or go to the meeting if.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you, I was up on vacation last week, and had I have been around, I certainly would have been in favor of approving this. And you have my support so long as the engineers say okay.
It's a tough time of year, well, honestly, a tough time of year because the applicant was out in northeast Canada, so I couldn't reach him by phone.
Yeah.
So by the time I got him back and got all the rest of the stuff taken care of, it was just running around. And that's the problem, is this tough time of year with vacations right now.
Yeah.
Like I said, with Mr. Walsh being even gone, he probably would have had a letter for us tonight if he wasn't on vacation this week, because,
And I guess the only other, the lighting is just the sconces on the building.
that's all we're showing is the wall pack light.
And I think we waived, that was one of their waivers requests, right? For the
For the
photos.
photometric, yes.
Yeah, the photometric.
For the
but-
photometric.
Yeah, and I think that was part of the condition of that waiver was if, obviously, if we change the lighting, to obviously come back and have that conversation with you guys about lighting.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, I guess we don't need to.
We have to
Can-
continue.
Well, I guess that would,
The
that we
app-
take no action and it would automatically continue like we did previously, because they're not requesting a continuance.
No, what is it, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, we have to give you a
20
date certain. That would be
You want me
the,
to request it? It was easy for me to request that.
you don't have to request it, and then, I mean, the clock would work in your favor. I mean, if you did request it, if you'd like to request a continuance, we can't.
So it's the 28th
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
at 6:30, right?
Would probably, do have one
other
special
submittal.
permit,
Okay.
so I think they would be first on the agenda.
When's their break ground goal?
Tomorrow.
What's their realistic goal?
They literally want to be in, they talk about August is when they talk about being in. So what I'm going to tell them is obviously get other stuff in front of the building inspector to get that ball rolling, since this is what Adam and I had talked about last week before I know he was going to be gone today, is he told us obviously to get their information in front of the building inspector for the other part of the application, foundation plans and so forth, because I think that's all they're looking for is really a foundation permit right now, just so they can
Right.
get the foundation in the ground, so they can get the rest of the stuff going. And then obviously they'll continue to work with the building inspector to get his permit, but they want to start digging right away. Because how winters are around here, you never know when the first
When they
snows-
start,
We could be looking
yeah.
at Halloween again, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully not, but that's why they're trying to beat that, so. All right, so I guess I'd request,
28th would be the,
Yeah, is there any public comment, just to cover all the bases? All right.
request a continuance, I guess, till the 28th, and then, at that time, hopefully we'll have something back from Mr. Walsh to be able to close the meeting. Mm-hmm. Now, at that point too, and now obviously you can't vote on it, but obviously if we don't have anything back from him at the next meeting, would you be willing to conditionally approve it such that he's okay with the plan?
We have that ability to do that, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'd accept the motion.
to continue to the 28th?
at the applicant's request.
at the applicant's request. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Nice.
All right. Moving on.
So much move that we take number 13 next.
Minutes approval.
Oh, he's in the paper.
All right, minutes approval from 7/24/17. Any comments?
The ledger or the Sentinel?
This one?
I can't remember.
Minutes approval from 7/24/17, the public hearing for 40 Pioneer Drive. Any comments?
Nope. No issues.
All right, moving on to committee reports. Capital Planning meets tomorrow. It's just an initial meeting to discuss the process and where we're at.
Do you get a lot of people attending those meetings?
We have not had one yet.
Oh.
So this, I don't think they normally don't start until like the fall, late
Yeah.
fall.
From my experience, there was almost no attendance from the public. Every once in a while, some additional members from Finance Committee would show up, but
Okay.
School Building Committee has not met and no scheduled meeting, but I would assume they would be having one soon because we're supposed to be closing that out. And then Green Communities Task Force, no meeting, no update. Stormwater Task Force.
So the Stormwater Task Force, we did meet on the 27th of June, and as I had spoken about at my previous committee report, the NOI has been granted a stay by the EPA for an additional year, so we're not required to submit for another year. So we were already scheduled to meet with our consultant, and they presented us the rest of the notice of intent application, which was pretty much finished. So we spent the majority of the time discussing where to go from here, and trying to figure out how the best way to present the money issues to the Board of Selectmen. We didn't come up with any concrete solutions or definitive answers. We did, however, decide to stop meeting twice a month, and we're going to meet once a month now. And that was that meeting. And then Agricultural Commission, they got 2 new members sworn in. I assume they're sworn in, they got appointed. We've lost our market manager. So currently, there really is no technically market manager.
Again?
Again. So there's that issue. There's no lack of willingness to participate in contributing to help manage and take care of everything that needs to get done. I myself, my wife and I are vendors, and we haven't really noticed much of a difference aside from the advertising and the marketing. Of course, that's a loss. They sponsored the band concert on the 31st, and that went off well. They had root beer floats and some beer bread. No, it wasn't beer bread, was it? Some bread. And let me see. They are trying to get together with the Historical Society, I believe, for a fund, for an event coming up in September. That's where they're going to have the vegetable circus, which is something for kids and adults to learn from. So that's about it.
Alrighty, MJTC.
The next MJTC meeting is September 13th at 6:30 in the MRPC offices, and I will not be able to attend because I will be traveling.
You're in there.
I'm sorry, the Doyle Center.
JTC.
Oh, it's the new MRPC offices.
The new MRPC.
Okay.
Yeah. Abbott Avenue. It's kind of It's not convenient to get there.
Have
gotta
you
go
been
up
there?
and turn- Yeah, it's really nice.
Beautiful
That's
place.
the last, we used to have meetings there.
You gotta take like a ski jump, I think, and then, right?
Well, you gotta go up the highway and turn around and come back.
Yeah.
'Cause it used to be one of those roads that crossed Route 2 that
Yeah.
doesn't cross Route 2 anymore, thank God. But, yeah, I will not be able to attend the next meeting because I will be traveling.
Incidentally, you can get there from Route 12 as well,
Yeah, from the other side, yeah.
from the intersection, yeah.
Anyways. MRPC?
Yeah, it was good to fill in for David at that meeting. That was a great meeting. A couple highlights that came out of it. They recently acquired a 3D printer, and they have it up and functioning, and they hope to, in the future, they said they're probably about 6 to 9 months away from this, but to be able to offer to the surrounding towns, those services with different projects within towns. When we were there, he had a couple replicas that they, spent 4 hours printing, and it was pretty cool. One of the discussion pieces was about marijuana that has recently passed the state. It's a new iteration, and that was a discussion piece about how that's going to be integrated into communities. The general feel was hesitance on how booming the recreational marijuana business really is going to be. If it's going to, there's question marks on that. And if it's going to stay medical or if, that's really going to be a booming industry or not. Because with all the taxes that they're adding on to it, it ends up being, the black market is about half as much as what it's going to cost. So there were some questions about that. And then the other thing was that came up was the increasing charging stations, that there's going to be a couple new charging stations for electronic vehicles in the area. So there'll be more of those coming in the coming years. Of course, some representatives had questions of, how long does this take? And right now, it's roughly an hour and 15 minutes to get 300 miles, versus a gas station 3 minutes to get 300 miles.
Who would pay for that?
Well, people are doing it right now, but that's generally what people are getting out of them right now. It takes about an hour and 15 minutes to charge your vehicle. You get around 300 miles per charge. And some of the questions people had, which is, when you locate these at public garages, is, hey, my car is charged in an hour and a half, but if I don't get there, no one's there moving cars around. So
Put 'em in Starbucks.
Yeah, so the question is, if you have an electronic car, you go to public parking. If you don't get there first, then you can't really, charge your car. So that was something that came up.
Town supply the electricity?
No, most of these, and I knew very little about this, and there was someone there that actually had one of these vehicles and said that they're getting about 100 miles to the gallon, and they said that it basically works like a club. And so kind of like if you think of mobile being, different clubs and then Golf having their own clubs, you have to join the club, and then you can use their charging stations. So you can't just use any of them.
Thinking they possibly do it like a parking meter, you pay for time.
Yeah.
When your time's up, if you don't move your car, you get a ticket. I mean,
Not a
just
bad
like
idea.
anybody that parks on a time limit parking spot, that would be the same thing.
So there were a lot of positive things that came out of it. Of course, with our area, I'm not so sure. We may be out, since we're outside of the 495 corridor, we may be too far away from, this being feasible given the current technology in this area. But there will be more stations coming along Route 2 in the future.
See, they have them at the 99, and Westford has a couple. A lot of the car dealerships now have them too.
Going forward, I wouldn't mind being an alternate for MRPC or even MJTC, but MRPC reminded me that we need official appointments from the town for their representatives.
But I've said it before, I'll say it again, we haven't had an alternate on there, I don't think, in a long, long time. So, I don't know if
I'm
we
not sure. I
can,
think we make
no,
the town manager.
BOS, right? Is that right, Ken?
Well, MJTC, and I assume MRPC, it's the Board of Selectmen submits theirs, and the Planning Board submits theirs. So we
Okay.
each get to submit one. And we say it's a primary and alternate, but it's really just who can attend. They both are valid attendance.
But if
You
they
can always
wanted, they
attend-
could always,
You can always attend as a,
interested
yeah,
citizen.
just a a member of the public and listen and take notes, but you can't contribute to the meeting. That's the only difference.
You're both voting members on those committees?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I would suggest you approach the town manager if you're interested in an official appointment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the Board of Selectmen can appoint anybody.
Yeah. They just have to make the appointment.
Actually, a segue into our next agenda item.
Oh, wait a minute, open space, ad hoc.
Sorry, ad hoc open space.
Nothing scheduled.
Wait for it. Okay, director's items, I don't think we have anything except for the Charter Review Committee. So I think we all got the memo from Elaine, and I did follow up today as to what the time commitment may be. So basically, you're going to meet as much as is deemed necessary until annual town meeting to review the charter. We are not obligated to appoint a planning board member, from what I understand, but I don't see anybody jumping up and volunteering, so if anyone's interested, wink, wink, nudge, nudge to Michael Ray.
I certainly am interested. I don't know if that's, would that be advisable, given that I am, appointed into this position?
Well, it would be only until town meeting, which would be before the election, so
Okay.
And again,
we'd be able to fulfill the commitment.
This board
so-
can appoint anybody.
Do we have any more information yet on what their tentative timeline for meetings is looking like?
Roughly,
Or what it has been in the past?
I
Yeah,
don't,
they
I think
do
it's
it
only
every
done
10
every
years.
10 years, so I'm not sure.
Well, they gave us, we were there 10 years ago. when they did-
I'll submit my name then as a potential for
If you
this.
want to put your hat in the ring, we can appoint you, and if it becomes an issue, there's a volunteer position, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put my hat in the ring for it, and if the time commitment's too overwhelming, I'll make everyone aware of that.
And we can always send an alternate if we have somebody, so I would accept a nomination.
I nominate Michael Ray.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Try, I mean, you're interested, I guess. Well, thank you for doing that.
All right.
And if it does come down to it, that is very interesting to me. I do have a considerable amount of commitments, but if it does become overwhelming, I would be happy to sit in. That's, like I say, every decade, so very impactful to the town. Bless you.
Alrighty, definitions and use table, we're expecting to have some discussion at the next meeting. Adam is on vacation this week, but he should be getting us something to revise or address, so. Notices and communications, those were scanned to the board, I believe there was only one from Lancaster. And then our August public hearing, we have the continuation of 40 Pioneer Drive, and then we have the 994 Northfield Road, which is a 6-megawatt solar farm.
Yes.
I believe we received the application in the office, and the information should be available.
It's also posted to the website now.
It is
Oh,
posted
good.
to the website now, so. September 11th, nothing on there that I know of. Do you know of anything else? And then September 12th, we've been invited to participate in an economic development workshop with the Board of Selectmen. And then September.
Do you know what they're going to be discussing, the economic development? meeting?
I don't have any more information than the invite that we got.
Is that open to the public?
Yeah, workshops are open to the public, but it
Okay.
would be at the chair's discretion to take public
Okay.
comment.
I raise that, I'll comment with public comment. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Sure. September 25th, nothing that I know of. Is there any public comment from the public? Crickets. Ongoing items, complete streets, I think we're still waiting for a finalization of that.
I don't know.
I think acceptance of the town. And then boards, comments and concerns. I had asked Adam to put this on the agenda, so basically this is Asian Imperial's parking situation. for the benefit of Michael Ray, they had submitted an application back in the late winter, early spring, I believe, and then it was withdrawn. We had identified some issues with the current permit, as well as made the recommendation that the 9 Electric Avenue not be used for parking until it was properly permitted.
That's you're familiar with that? Awesome.
They have been in communication with Adam and the building commissioner or zoning commissioner, but we're no closer to an application being filed than we were the day they withdrew. And so I believe it had been discussed here that this was a reasonable amount of time before we pursued basically a review of their existing special permit. And what I would request is that we get a copy of all the existing permits that they have from ZBA, Planning Board, and then we can identify any issues that they have and also formalize a request for enforcement regarding the 9 Electric Ave, because it's basically a safety issue for me at this point. They have no pedestrian access to that lot. With winter coming, they're going to be having cars backing out into 13 again, so.
With the additional environmental impacts as well.
Right.
There are environmental impacts. It's also 3 curb cuts.
Not looking to hold my thumb by any
Different streets,
means,
so.
but I don't think that requiring them to adhere to their existing special permit should be overly burdensome. So I would accept the motion to pursue that periodic review if someone would choose to make one.
Question, we have a new building inspector, commissioner, zoning enforcement officer?
A building inspector. Our zoning commissioner interim is still Mr. Rhodes. They couldn't find a qualified candidate to fill that position, so they decided to hire a building inspector and hopefully groom him into the position of zoning commissioner. The gentleman they appointed at the Board of Selectmen meeting, he is from town and he has a long history of development. So, I think he said 16 years of
So then if there was any zoning enforcement, it would be by a temporary zoning officer?
It would still be through Mr. Rhodes. I think the building inspector is going to be handling most of the code enforcement. But if we do have zoning requests or questions, they would go to Mr. Rhodes. But yeah, to initiate the periodic review, I would need a motion and a second. And basically, we would just review the materials, invite the property owner to come in and address any of those, and/or the zoning commissioner. If we do get a application in the meantime, we can always forgo the periodic review.
I have questions about whether the town has any liability with them using the second lot, an unapproved lot, for parking in its present state. Is there a way to get in touch with council to ask them if that affects us at all? I mean, there are questions about snow clearing, if they push that snow into the street, if they cause some kind of a problem, and they don't have any approvals from us on anything, and then something should happen.
That's something we can address during the review period. Again, it's not, all we would basically be doing is making a formal request for enforcement if we chose to go that way. We ultimately do have the authority to revoke the permit they received. I'm not petitioning for that, but I think we identified a lot of safety issues and other issues that need to be addressed. And due to the fact they were given some relief, due to the fact they were anticipating a new application, but they just haven't received one. And again, this was the date, the timeline through Adam and Mr. Rhodes that said they've been given enough time to put in an application and they haven't done it, so.
Okay. How do you want this worded exactly? What did you want?
I guess I would entertain a motion to initiate a periodic review.
Permit review.
Permit review for 5 and 9 Electric Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion?
So is the primary concern is that people are using that that vacant lot next door for parking? That's the primary concern, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they're not permitted, they don't meet any of the requirements of the bylaw regarding accessory parking. The existing permit, we've identified issues with parking sorry, I'm looking for the word, and they're parking outside of designated parking areas. They're missing one handicapped space. They should have two. I guess I would encourage anyone
As I recall,
to read the decision and then look and see what's there, and I think you'll see there are some discrepancies and
Well, they also have, so we would be looking at, they have an approval, right, from us.
4 or 5 for
right.
the existing.
Yes, for 5. So anything that they're doing is outside of that approval,
Right.
as it stands, unless they come in with a plan. Correct? Is that right?
What's your question again?
Anything they're doing, any business, any parking that they're allowing there is outside of their existing approval. Is that correct?
Outside of the 33 spots that were
Originally.
that are in the original
approved.
decision.
But it is still a separate lot. It is not part of the originally approved lot.
Correct.
But when they came
And
in
it
with
is
the application, they came in because they did.
It's basically a vacant lot.
So.
It is commercial,
So
though.
basically.
But it's still a parking lot. If it's just a parking lot, excuse me, then there are still regulations regarding a parking lot. They have to have a certain amount of buffering around a parking lot that's just a parking lot.
Well, they have
So-
to have a durable dustless
Yeah,
surface.
that's
That has
right,
to
yeah.
be, there has to be adequate pedestrian access.
Yeah.
Whether it be steps or a walkway of some sort. They don't meet any of the drainage requirements.
Yeah, I'd like to know what
Again, it's just identifying where they should be as opposed to where they are. And we don't have to take any action. We have the ability, again, to revoke the permit, but it doesn't benefit I don't want to do anything that's going to affect their existing business.
But this is just the review.
Right,
Of the 2007 permit, the original.
right. And just to make sure that they're in compliance with that permit.
Okay.
And it's kind of, my understanding of what you're asking is, I mean, they're a successful business in town. Of course, we want to encourage them, but, I mean, we go down there, it's not really a secret that the second lot, can use some work, right? And so it seems as if, they need the space to expand, but that what they're doing should be compliant with the rules of town. And from my understanding is that they initially approached the town, and then since then they've pulled back, and it's just been well, we're just going to do it the way we want to do it, and well, not necessarily that intention, but that's what they've been doing, is just using it, basically.
Well, just
And so,
to give you the history, they did come to the planning board with a proposal to turn that into a parking area, but combined with that proposal was the proposal to expand the restaurant.
Okay.
Add additional seating and a specialized takeout area. And the board had an issue with that because the additional seating would counter the effect of the additional parking. And so it was, I can't speak for the whole board, but it was my opinion that the additional parking was needed as a whole just to compensate for the number of active tables and patrons that they have today without expansion. And as a result of that feedback, I believe they withdrew their application and said they would come back with a revised plan. And they have not come back with a revised plan.
okay.
But I understand Adam has had multiple conversations with them, and I don't know what the result is of.
Basically, they continue to tell him we're working on it, but, and again, I asked him specifically what was, and this was back in June when I asked him, what was it a reasonable amount of time to wait for them to either submit something or take additional action, and he said the first meeting in August, and I revisited that conversation with them as recently as this Thursday, so they have not received any indication other than a verbal, we're working on it, so.
Now, the review is, I mean, what are the outcomes of a review?
So basically, we would ask, well, again, this is at the board's discretion what we would ask for, but I would request that we get all the information regarding their approvals from either Conscom, ZBA, and the existing planning board approval. Make sure that they're in compliance with those, because when they do propose, their existing conditions should be what the approval was, in my mind, and I think they're somewhat far off from that. Their
Yeah.
existing conditions do not reflect what was approved
Right.
initially in 2007.
So
Just trying to get at.
their table count is probably significantly higher than the permit approved,
And again, it's another one of those situations where
which compounds the parking challenge.
I would hail them as a success story. They started small in
absolutely.
town, they moved, they stayed in town, they built another building. The lady that, the property owner owns several properties in town, so they are taxpayers. But again, we did give them the opportunity to either request an extension or come in and address the board and work out some of these issues on their own, and they chose not to do that. So, but again, it's just to identify how far off they are from their existing permits. And again, the action that may be taken is just a formal request to the zoning commissioner to enforce the zoning, so.
And when would that hearing be? When would the permit review be?
We would set a date for it and put it on the agenda. I mean, we could do it for the next meeting or give them even 2 meetings. I don't think we have to.
Would that be in the
decide on-
motion?
Pardon me?
Would that be in the motion?
We can give a date certain in the motion. My request was be that we invite the property owner to come in, invite the zoning commissioner to come in and have the discussion all at once.
If I'm not mistaken, it's already been moved and seconded.
Yeah, I would have
Yes.
to modify. Do you want me to modify my motion?
Do you want to modify the motion to set a
To-
date certain?
Yes.
We could either do August 28th, or we could give to September 11th. There's nothing, and that would give them almost another month to react,
I would,
provide more information.
yeah, I would give them some extra time.
So you want to
Especially
amend
since
your
it's a-
motion to,
Yes. So where was I?
the motion was to initiate a,
Permit review on 5 and 9 Electric Avenue.
It would actually be 5 Electric Avenue,
Sorry.
because there is no permit for 9, is there?
That's correct.
well, according to Adam, since they tore the building down, if they had left the building standing, then they would not be in common ownership. Because it would, well, they wouldn't have to automatically combine them because there's an existing structure. But since they removed the building,
It
they
reversed the-
basically come into common ownership under one property.
So 5 and 9 Electric Avenue.
There are ways around that, too. I mean, it could be, one of them could be the business and one of them could be the person.
Yeah.
Right, but we can't do
Ownership.
a review of something, I mean,
True,
how do we
yeah.
address 9? They addressed them both in the application, and
To take place,
he did put both addresses on here, so
take place on, what did we say, September 12th?
11th.
Oh, sorry, September 11th.
And would you amend your second?
Yes.
You second the amendment?
I second the amendment.
Thank you.
Any further
I
discussion?
need to read Roger's book.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Ken?
Nay.
Nay. And I think that's it. I would, unless there's
Public
any
comment?
Public comment from the public? Any more public comment from the board?
Yes, thank you, Michael, for covering for me. I appreciate it. And there's been a lot of interest in the last year or two about economic development. Some people have got in touch with me throughout town, some of the local business owners. So I just want to reiterate that there is going to be a workshop on September 12th, BOS, on economic development. Please try to make it. That's all.
Thank you.
My minor board comment is September 11th and 12th, I will be traveling, and so will be absent from the 2 meetings that are scheduled on those dates. Unless something gets canceled. Right now, I'm scheduled to travel.
I'll fill in
If you
for
have
you.
any comments regarding economic development, I encourage you to submit them to Adam or town manager, I guess.
I have one comment. I'd like to, first I want to thank, the members of the board as well as Marjorie and Adam for their support with me as being a new member. And I'd like to suggest that we do if we can set aside a time to do maybe a luncheon or something with the staff during the weekdays. I don't know, not all of us may be available, but I'd be very interested in, meeting up with Adam and Marjorie once a month or so, just to have a lunch. I can, pay for their lunch and just something to do, to say thank you guys for your work, and I think it's a good come together kind of sort of thing. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts are about it, but I'm open to, setting aside time once a month to do that.
Ethically, you cannot do that.
It's open meeting
Open
issues.
meeting law, we would have to actually have a meeting, and it would have to be set in a place that was open to the public.
Okay.
We'd
Yeah.
have to buy all of them lunch as well.
So we can do this individually, not as a group?
Correct.
Yes.
Got it.
Up to.
All right.
You can't spend more than $50. I know Marjorie really likes those fancy restaurants.
Well, you could do 2 members and Marjorie and Adam. That wouldn't count as
Right,
quorum.
right, right.
But then there'd be that infectious invalid, no,
Yeah, that-
what was the other thing? Soiling the water or something.
Oh my. And we're right back at, what was it? Fire in the sky? What was it?
Thank you for that. Thanks for the clarification. But I'll make sure that I then try to set aside time with them, once a month or so to meet up for lunch.
I'm always happy to interact with any of the board members. I'm on call 24/7, so.
All right.
so to speak. But I appreciate the intent, and I encourage you to reach out to anybody in any committee, so, thank you. Alrighty, I guess that's it, unless there's any more comments. I would entertain a moment.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh.